From a project manager in the construction industry to the CEO of an organization bringing in over $23 million in annual revenue and more than 200 staff members, my guest today is Rodney Carter, the CEO of Wurrung Aboriginal Clans Corporation, trading as DJAARA. Rodney is a wealth of wisdom, I can tell you. This episode is jam-packed full of amazing insights into the world of DJAARA and of the Wurrung people. They have some projects on the go that will just blow your mind. There's also a lot of wisdom in there about managing large teams and how you keep people on the same journey, how you encourage diversity without fear. Man, it's just jam-packed. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's take it away. Rodney Carter, thank you so much for joining me in the Emporium studio. It is an absolute honor to have you here.
Thank you very much, Caleb. I'm looking forward to the chat.
Yeah. Hey, I reckon my first interaction of DJAARA and Wurrung Aboriginal Clan Corporation, it was at that time, I reckon maybe might have been 17, and I was walking down Creek Street. I think the corporation used to have an office down near Creek Street somewhere, and I saw the sign out the front and I was like, I have no idea what that is. And I walked in to the receptionist. I said, what is this? And she let me know. I was like, oh, great, cool. And then here we are like 10, 15 years later, and DJAARA has become quite an amazing organization with lots happening, lots of projects. I want to start at the start. Could you explain to people that maybe have never heard of DJAARA, what is it?
Really simply, it's an Aboriginal corporation that's set up very similar to other corporations, associations. So if you have an understanding of what your local sporting club has to do and have a president, have a committee, and then it has a purpose, the Wurrung as an Aboriginal corporation is not dissimilar. We have a constitution and rules that then largely look at what we should do within that purpose. And that's about actually making the world a better place insofar as that Wurrung wants to be healthy as a community and to be an active contributor to the wider community.
And DJAARA and yourself have definitely been that. Could you kind of paint the scale of how big is the corporation in terms of people and maybe explain a couple of the different business arms that you've got?
Yeah, so today we're a corporation that trades around $28 million a year.
Wow.
So we're a significant contributor to local and regional economy here at Central Victoria. We have over 200 employees. And to give you an idea where we come from, just 10 years ago, and as long as I've been CEO, I was the 6th employee and our recurrent budget was $600,000 a year. So that's an exponential increase over a decade.
Wow, that is huge. Now, I know you've got 3 distinct different arms of the business. Could you share what they are and what their different purposes are?
Yeah, so if we try and understand the structure, there's 2 main key areas. There's the Aboriginal Corporation, which is made up of members, and it's about serving DJAARA, the people, and that's why it's actually called DJAARA, trading as DJAARA. Then DJAARA is the parent then of a proprietary limited structure that we would understand as being a company. So that's our Wurrung Enterprises, and it has 3 arms currently that we set up through trusts, and that's Jandak that looks after country. We have Doomawul, which is the exchange between 2 people, so that's our creative industries and our arts and tourism. And Jarkich is about eating country to good health, eating ourselves to good health. So that's our food sciences and our food futures, or what others would understand is what we do in an agricultural business. So that's the way we're sort of structured now to do many things.
Yeah, that is quite the broad spectrum of impact across a whole range of different areas. Could you share with me a few maybe projects that DJAARA and some of DJAARA enterprises have been involved in that people might recognise around, say, Bendigo or surrounding areas?
I think one of the key projects that we've had support, and we started in the early days, was the work we've done on Bendigo Creek. And for us, that was really significant because it gave us an opportunity at a degraded place at landscape that pretty much was used by local people, you know, to leave a bit of refuge. There was shopping trolleys and all the stuff that you find at locations that aren't used as a park or reserve. And so we were able to bring a style and approach to creating a cultural, recreational area that is good in its amenity for us to visit. It's good for plants and animals, so in terms of biodiversity and habitat. And what was unique for that area, and now we have it as a product, we created ponds as terraces that collected adjacent stormwater and cleaned that stormwater, aerated that stormwater before it went back into the creek. So it becomes a unique standard, or I call a product now, for us to replicate and do elsewhere.
Yeah, that's quite a phenomenal area. It called the frog ponds. I know it as the frog ponds, right?
Yeah.
It actually it's tied to the history of the creek, right? It was a linked set of billabongs and natural pools, right? And you've restored that to that model of natural water treatment. That's pretty amazing. Where can people visit these if they want to, just as an aside, if they want to go and have a look?
Yeah, so the location's at Knight Street. It's also the head space for the bicycle trail, the O'Keefe trail. So for us, that was useful to be adjacent to how other users might use that area. Of course, we've seen the bicycle and walking pathway that's along Bendigo Creek. The unusual thing too, Caleb, I think, with a modified landscape, there's very little of the original Bendigo Creek that is how it was as a creek that had curves and meanders. And out of interest, if we ever go to the botanical gardens, we'll actually see a lagoon and a pond there that's not connected to the creek, but that's actually part of the original Bendigo Creek. So if you ever get to go there and have a look at it,
I
that
never
was
knew
the
that.
creek, you know, hundreds of years ago.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never knew that. It's somewhat close, but it's not connected at all. Wow. Yeah, I love that connection to the country and care for the country in that way, that it is the best way to treat water, and it's all natural. It literally filters, like you say, oxygenates, and brings life back into that, which was a very sad and sorry sight. That is really cool. What about some of the more architectural projects? So, for example, one that I'm aware of that we worked on as well was capturing the story of was the courthouse. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what involvement DJAARA had in that?
Yeah, we had a lot of involvement because I think we're starting to be better appreciated as a people and what we could contribute to in our culture, but applied in modern contexts. So if you go to the courthouse and you're inside, you'll see a lot of language getting used to explain the buildings and the areas of the court. So that's about giving language back to country, making those that visit the area to be familiar. A court is a place that is set up for determining rights and wrongs and laws and as a place of justice. So for DJAARA Wurrung, it was really important that we embed a murup, a spirit into the building that looks after those that work in it, that holds those that come to the court in terms of justice to be account for your conduct, for those that might be a form of victim to things that happen in community that aren't good, that they can leave there hopefully in an emotional sense feel more well. So a lot of that spirit was embedded into the building. So now when you look at the building and you look at the textures, the colours, the clever use of granite, stone in the building, this is about in a design way, useful way, bringing culture. The other thing that's unique to that building, we have ancestral spirits, and Bunjil, which is Warrapul, the eagle, has been created as a perforated image that provides shelter and shade inside that level of the building. But for those that are outside the building, you get to see this amazing image of an eagle, present at the location. Yeah. The other thing that we use ceremonially is water ceremonies, but most predominantly smoking ceremonies as a way to clean, to cleanse, to let go of what's not wanted. And so when you look at the paving and the entrance design, there is a smoking ceremony embedded into all of the designs and the carvings in the paving as you lead up to the building. So the idea is that you travel through this paving to be cleansed with the idea of smoke, and also when you leave the building.
Yeah, Bunjil on the side of the building is quite impressive and can be seen from a long way away. He's really big on that building.
Yeah, it's amazing, Cal, because it's look, it's a first of its kind for all of us here. Yeah. It's a first of its kind for Australia. It's a really significant achievement in our collaboration as community and people.
Yeah. And we're seeing the impact and the collaboration and connection of DJAARA and the work of DJAARA Enterprises across our whole city. And I think it's really reflecting quite a beautiful collaboration. I've heard you speak in your heart and the organisation's heart for community connectedness and embedding within and partnering rather than dividing. Do you want to share a little bit about I suppose that and the purpose behind DJAARA and how you see the connectedness of community into the future?
Yeah, I think there's principles that we should and need to have as community, and I think to bring purpose to what you do that is not immediately serving the individual, but serves others and can assist them to be more well. To feel pride in what they participate, they see, they can contribute to. For us, that really is what community is about and drives a lot of what Wurrung does in a sense, not self-serving for us as a people. We feel absolutely brilliant and healed by doing things, but for that to be a greater benefit to the wider community. And we base that a little bit in a sad way, Caleb, when I think about how my ancestors were treated. They probably weren't valued. They probably weren't honoured for what they could contribute. But today and tomorrow, the Wurrung understand that we can actually do some great things here together and set us apart, I think, from other Victorians and Australians and what we're doing together. Yeah. That, for me, I think is foundational to community and great outcomes.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I share that heart of valuing the uniqueness that's found in every single person and that's found in the culture of the Wurrung peoples. You and the organisation have grown, and we'll get into your growth story a little bit because I'm fascinated to hear how an organisation goes from 6 to over 200 in a decade. That's a massive growth. But before we get into that growth story, I'm interested to hear, are there any more projects that DJAARA and the Wurrung are engaged in, maybe future ones that you're really excited about?
Yeah, we've got multiple projects on the go at the moment. Unusually, we've had this trouble getting through statutory processes planning, basically. So for a period of probably 2, maybe 3 years, there's been this frustration for us, but also a growth around trying to understand process in the planning context. That's meant, Caleb, that we've had a bit of a backlog. Things have built up. So at the moment, we've got numerous landscape projects happening. The Larney, which is the new campground we're proposing to be held out and built at the number 4 reservoir. So that's something that we're hoping will be completed by the end of the year. There's 2 reserve redevelopments. So the Wildflower Drive that's here within the Bendigo area. We're also doing one out at Castlemaine. We're redeveloping a campground at Mount Cura, which will be really significant, what we're doing out there. We're currently working on the Kara National Park, Paddy's Ranges. We've done a number of projects in partnership with Colaban Water at their water reservoirs and done shelters and developments in those areas. We've recently, in the last 6 months, finished work at Loganbook, so the Mount Franklin camping reserve inside the crater. Later this week, we'll, in partnership, open a redevelopment of Mineral Springs out near Dalesford. That's got a lot of stuff that was done by Wurrung. Info Centre at the Maryborough train station. It just sort of goes on.
It
Caleb,
does go on. How do you hold all these things in your mind? This is amazing.
I think it's out of pride. Just like we had a real blank canvas, in a sense, here in Central Victoria. And when I speak to some of the other leaders, the prominence of our presence today as Wurrung is held in really high regard by others. But they also reflect and say, geez, Rodney, like 10, 15 years ago, we didn't really know, hear, see. Whereas I think now, which is just such a useful continuous contributor to conversations, community conversation, but to activities that will help us as a community to celebrate and enjoy these outdoor type and other experiences, but especially for those that choose to now visit and or want to live here. We're creating, I think, now a beautiful canvas that's got so much culture and colour in it for us as a people.
It makes me so proud to see the work that you're doing in these landscapes, because this is, this is my home too, right? And I just see all of the improvements and the heart behind the investment in country and the sharing of that. All these places that you're improving are open for use for the public, right? And it's about sharing what I can see. It's about sharing country. It's about caretaking and managing well, but it's about sharing and sharing that love for country and the value that you have for it. So I think you're doing a great job. I wanted to drill into that thought that you mentioned there. Wurrung, I don't get out much in terms of Aboriginal clan corporations. I don't really have a good spectrum because Wurrung are the local, surrounding Central Victoria. I've never really met any more. But how are other Aboriginal clan corporations operating to the same scale and excellence that Wurrung are, and how does the interplay between corporations look?
Yeah, so there's a network across the state. When I mentioned earlier that we're an Aboriginal corporation, we're founded upon members. We're sort of unique and distinct as being descendants of Wurrung ancestors, Wurrung people. That makes us and our descendancy, Wurrung people. So there's a number of Aboriginal corporations around the state that are similarly structured, and what drives this is trying to reframe the recognition of us as a people and our rights. And then what do we do usefully for that recognition of our rights? And the Wurrung 10 years ago did a recognition settlement agreement with the state of Victoria that affords us this opportunity in rights recognition. The hard thing for any of us, and I think we've learned to be really good at this as Wurrung, is the commercialising of your rights. So how do you turn culture, creative ideas, contribution to environmental needs, the natural world, climate change, forestry, giving fire, burning, all this into a commercial opportunity. And that's where we've been really good. There's a number of corporations, groups in the state that have begun a similar journey in the last 4 or 5 years. So the Wurrung people, which is just the other side of the Campaspe River from us here, they've got a significant agreement and doing very similar things as us. In Gippsland, Far East Gippsland, there's the Gunai-Kurnai people. So when the DJAARA Wurrung did their agreement 10 years ago, 2 years before, the Gunai-Kurnai people. So they've been doing very similar things down there. And I think what we'll find across the state increasingly, groups will be able to learn to stand up, contribute and do these things that we're doing here.
Yeah, I love that. I'm excited for what the future looks like for Bendigo, having the DJAARA Wurrung caretaking and stepping into their ancient role as caretakers and managers of the land. It's a beautiful thing. So let's talk a little bit about how that scale, how you've grown the organisation to what it is now, and what that journey kind of looked like. So you said before you were the 6th employee, and now at a staff of over 200 with an immense amount of projects going on all at once. Tell me a little bit about that journey. How did you go about growing to that scale, and was that always the vision?
Yeah, the vision for us is based around our Dalkunya, which is our Healthy Country Plan. It's a 20-year document that gives us some focus and structure around where we'd want to be. So that's driven largely what we want to do. It began with our rights recognition. It's really hard to turn that into a practical application that now can be measured and seen by others. And we've been, I believe, exceptional at doing that, Caleb. So what happens is now you have a number of achievements. You get recognition from the achievements. It's understood around the achievements that you have a form of reliability within that reputation of doing the achievements. You have some presence by your achievements, so you arouse a bit of curiosity and interest in what you do, and it's a bit unique because it's the DJAARA Wurrung way to do stuff, but we do it with community here. And then others, in a sense, don't want to immediately buy it, but they want to buy into it. And so what happens is your demand of wanting to contribute to partner with increases. I say now you've got many problems, Caleb, but they're good problems. You need more people to do more things. And you need to really look after your people and as a team so that they're well to contribute, and then they're under demands as opposed to pressures, because we now collectively believe in vision and wanting to do things a certain way. So whether it's, like I mentioned before, forest gardening, giving fire, cleaning water, giving water spirit, understanding what our future will be in a changing world with climate change and what we need to do now. So it's very organic. Corporately then, as a CEO with my board and governments, you have to sort of put the brakes on a little bit, because with these problems, these good problems you have, there's greater necessity and need to adhere to industrial law, health and safety requirements, the environment your employees are in, the dynamics now having people with varying personalities that you want. You want an individuality. That's what gives you greater strength. But there's dynamics and ways teams have to work together harmoniously and collectively. And so we've built over the years a real need to be borrowing from platforms and systems that we've seen in the corporate world that are useful in human resource and personnel management and so forth. So we've become a part of victim of success, but because we believe in our vision and what we're doing, we keep adding all the right parts to it, Caleb, to make it bigger. So I find it hard even though I like to think I've got vision and I can try and be visionary, where this might be in another 10 years. It's just absolutely amazing, the growth.
It's phenomenal. And what I'm hearing is that a key part of that vision setting and keeping everyone looking at the same outcome has been that 20-year vision document, right? That you're able to, that's able to give you structure and has been able to align the outcomes and strategic objectives of the organization to that. And then also align the people around a mission. That's one of the biggest things that I see, and most common things that I see amongst successful businesses, is that they're aligned around a specific mission and they know the impact that they're having on the world. Yours is so very clear because it's very much to do with environment and community, people and land. And so it's very easy to see the impact that you're contributing to. I'm interested about their organizational structure because you said you've got lots of things happening, right? You've got some trusts set up under a PTY Ltd, and then you've got the corporation on the side there. What is your management structure? So you are synonymous with DJAARA as the face of DJAARA, but what is your management structure and team look like to be able to manage all these different parts?
Yeah, and I don't suggest to anyone that they take this approach, but I find I haven't got a personal assistant, but I get personal assistance from my executive team around me.
Yep.
And so it's really important for shared responsibility in a team, even though we've got individual responsibilities, but to a little bit understand, I say, what the left and the right hand does. So for me, my executive team is my immediate family. I take a very parental approach in the way that I act as an executive in the organisation. That's to care for people, but it's also to empower and hold people to account. So in the two main structures that we touched on, the corporation is DJAARA, the enterprises, I have two general managers. So they're my direct line reports into what happens in those areas. A recognition settlement agreement is another highly technical area. So we have a recognition settlement agreement manager that looks after that area. We also have an executive team manager that looks after us, almost like an executive assistant, but they're more of being a manager. And so they're the main people I call on day to day. Unusually, I have our comms and media people, so our communications relationships report directly to me because I'm a key role in communicating the very broad brush of what we do to public and to others internally. CEO is the only employee of the governance structure in organisations. So the board employs me as the CEO. I say to the board, I'm the only employee that you have, and then they charge me with employing everyone else in the corporate structure. And because we've done so many builds and we're building our own corporate and community centre at the moment, our senior project manager reports directly to me, and that's not out of necessity. It's quite useful because I've got a trades qualification myself in experience in civil construction. I've worked on some state major projects.
Yeah, right.
So we're sort of talking the same sort of lingo. So that's been something that's probably unusual in a executive structure, but it's been really practical for us.
Yeah, I love that. Really fascinating insight there into how everything moves and what the key people are. That's really cool. I noted when I was planning for this interview that some of the most creative and talented community building people I know work for DJAARA now and different areas, and communications is one of them. I know a few people in there. One of my co-hosts on my other podcast, Country Creatives, Reese Hendy, my man, he works at Dummerwall. It is quite amazing. How could you share some insights into how you've been able to attract, how the organization's been able to attract really high quality people and retain them?
Yeah, we were talking just about this yesterday, like in trying to manage personnel and the dynamics of people, you know, what brings people to us. And I think it's because they believe in us, they believe in the vision, and then they might even see in themselves their own value and what they can contribute to, this really big vision. So I'm just so proud that so many people from so many walks of life, professional areas, have chosen to come and work with us, Caleb. There's people across a whole range of government departments that have left, those reasonably secure jobs and chosen to come and work with us. And it's never lost on me, but I probably don't think about it as frequently as I should. Yeah. But to the point of me mentioning parental, as best as I can keep an eye on the family for all the right reasons, I try and inspire the staff. I try and say things so truthfully, publicly about what we do that it's impressive to others. And if they hear it, Caleb, then they want to come and join it and be part of this corporate family.
Yeah, I love that. Has your role as the CEO changed and morphed over the years and in ways that you did or maybe did not expect?
Yeah, I sort of joke. I've been involved with my mob as a member in that, leading up to creating our corporations and all that sort of stuff, and had my own employment and that going on, and then fortunate to become the CEO. I was very challenged at the time because I thought with such a limited number of employees, calling somebody a CEO, I thought was a little bit strange. But I wasn't a CEO. I'm pressed on the selection panel, the people at the time that I probably had all of the attributes and potentially skills to apply as a CEO. I read as much leading up to applying for the job around what CEOs do, and you do have forms of not-for-profits that are at smaller scales that still have CEOs in the role and the title. And then I took it on myself to talk to a whole lot of other CEOs and find out what their approaches were that managed organisations a lot larger than we are today. But then it helps you in your vision, aspiring to. So I'd like to think that I've learned to be a CEO, Caleb, along the way. I like to think I've helped build this group, this organisation, to a size that it warrants having a CEO and an approach. I was fortunate, went and did some training in Hong Kong with some international corporates as vice presidents, and that was really educative to me to be in training rooms with those people that deal with billions of dollars. So yeah, I'd like to think I've learned to be a CEO. I'm still, I think, principally the person I was, before being the CEO. But there is certain things a CEO has to hold true, and I strongly believe this, that I protect the board. The board employs me, and the liability and risk of everything that happens that we do as a business and even with our members can fall towards the board. So I'm duty bound to protect my board, but I create that separation between the board and then I say my family, my corporate family, my staff, that that I manage the staff and the board don't manage the staff. So then I need to do everything in my power to look after my family, my people. And then a responsibility of a CEO is to inspire. So you have ideas and you mould ideas into vision and you share that vision so others can be part of the vision and own it. And you inadvertently create this strength amongst the teams and the people that you have. And maybe if there are ingredients with that, you've got to add a little bit of reality. It's got to be achievable. It's got to be realistic. And you've got to understand what are some of the steps that are going to play out for you to get to that end game in creating something. So that's a lot of what I've learned.
Yeah, that's so good. One thing that makes me think of is where in the organization's growth journey did you recognize and see? You talked a little bit about empowerment before. When did you kind of notice ideas and creative projects and that entrepreneurialism coming from the team rather than you directing that necessarily. Is that how it works? Are there ideas and concepts generated throughout the team that, because all of it can't come from your wonderful mind, can it?
It's embarrassing, Caleb. Like, I'll see things because I can't be across everything anymore.
No.
And there's things happening, and I go, "Oh, when did we do that?" And I we'll at the CEO, so you go along to your PR and all that sort of stuff. But there's things in their development. I'm not sort of finding out till it's pretty well. They're looking at final authorization. So they come to the executive team, CEO is part of that, and you sort of think, yeah, this is really amazing. It's hard, and I'm really uncomfortable to take credit for any of that. Others might say, "Oh, Rodney, okay, you've stimulated this, you've contributed to this. You're a bit of the ingredient that helps some of that stuff happen, Caleb." So, I'm embarrassed that I don't know the name of every one of my employers. I probably should rehearse and learn that.
Gee, that'd be a feat.
Yeah, it'd be hard, but everyone knows me, fortunately. Or sometimes people start, Caleb, and actually I've got this tick where I always say my name when I introduce myself to people, and they'll say, "Yeah, I know who you are, Rod."
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I know who you are. That's been part of probably your ability to play that PR role really well and play the spokesperson of the organisation really well. You've been featured in many of our videos across many different areas, not necessarily about DJAARA. One of them I really loved was the one where we were speaking about the work that DJAARA are doing with the yabbies and the kangaroo grass. Could you share a little bit about what's happening in the agriculture space?
Yeah. So to be reasonably successful in agriculture, you've got to understand a bit of process and gardening, in a sophisticated way, Caleb. So kangaroo grass, just as a species, was so prominent in southeastern Australia. It's a Gondwana continent plant, so it's been around, pre-ice ages. It's survived. There's forms of it in variety in South America, to Gondwana and the continents breaking up and that stuff. And so it was so present at country. It has a key contribution in ecosystem function and biodiversity health. And then you look at it and what the ancestors did. They were collecting it, harvesting it, drying it, grinding it, milling it in a fashion, and creating forms of dough and then breads and that sort of stuff. So then you think, well, that has a practical application in a modern world when we're dealing with climate change. Food security or food certainty is another way we look at food security. And we thought, well, there's modified landscapes that are full of paddocks. It's farms, that grow crops and vegetables and have stock on them. How about DJAARA Wurrung learn, like an agronomist would with barley, wheat, those types of grains, that we become the best farmer of it. So we put in a grant to the Department of Ag, Water, Environment. I think they understood what we were proposing to do in a systems approach. And so over about 3 years, we tinkered with systems using modern equipment, applying it in modern context, so in fallow paddocks in a sense. And fortunately, we've now become the systems expert where we can go with a business case or a business proposition to a farmer and say, look, we can grow kangaroo grass in this paddock, and this is what we understand a return will be when we harvest the grain in 12-month sort of cycles. Wow. And so for us, okay, that creates a commercial benefit, provides some form of food security. But if we can do this in many paddocks in a modified landscape, I say they're like petals from a flower, and you drop them across country, and now you look at country and you've got all of these kangaroo grass petals growing. that's good for ecosystem function and biodiversity. So what we're doing, we're eating country to good health, and this is what JAARA and our agricultural business is about. So if it's good for insects and vertebrates, which are under terrible stresses with extinction processes globally, now it's good for reptiles, it's good for birds, it's good for mammals. So we're taking an agricultural approach to a native grain, an ancient grain, that we'll eat and we'll consume and we'll be more well for it, but it's going to make country and everything else more well. That we've got a process then, Caleb, we can transfer to other types of species. So next year we're hoping to start on the yam daisy, which again was a plant that was seen in its millions, if not billions, in central Victoria, and take a similar approach. Now that we've bought a farm, and from our reputation of being able to achieve and do things, we put in a submission to the Indigenous Land and Sea Corporation, purchased this farm. We've got a multi-million-dollar investment now in building the biggest yabby farmers and aquaculture project in the Southern Hemisphere.
Wow.
And so that's under construction at the moment.
Wow.
We'll do a sample harvest from our brood stock at the end of this year.
Wow.
And by the end of 2025, December, summer, we should be into full-scale operations.
That's amazing. That's one of my favourite pastimes is yabby. Yabby catching and fishing and in the dam at mum and dad's place. It's so good, but I never would have entered my wildest dreams to think that there would be commercial yabby farming happening. That is so cool. I want to know a little bit about the commercialization of all these different arms. Let's start with these couple of examples that we've talked about. How will the organisation distribute or sell produce? Is it going to be a direct-to-consumer model, or will it be more of a distributor model?
Yeah, so we'll have to think about what are the elements of supply chain around this. When we set up the Yabby farm as an enterprise, we did the feasibility analysis at the start. And on all reports, it's good, but it's also a challenge that basically Central Victoria could consume our supply. And that's because I think also we're recognised as or designated as a city and region of gastronomy.
Yeah.
So we've got our own chefs, cooks, artisans wanting to explore what the flavours of country look like for us here. That then drives us to want to scale up our operations and supply more yabbies to people.
Yeah, wow. And when you're talking ancient grains, like my wife, the absolute superstar she is, she gets these ancient grain flour right from Sydney and bakes her own sourdough and stuff. Is there a timeline on when I can get my hands on some ancient grain flour from kangaroo grass?
Yeah, I reckon later this year. It's a plant more suitable. This is a processing hub.
Yeah.
More suitably for field cleaning than it's actually done with a low air humidity, so relative humidity.
Yep.
That helps that initial collecting and then field thrashing, so the disturbance of the husk around the seed. Then for later, while it's still warm and dry, that you do the immediate cleaning of the husk. So we're hoping by the end of this year, we'll be in a much better position to do the cleaning. That was one of the things we had to learn around the system. How are you efficient in cleaning stuff and not having to rehandle and or re-tamper with things in a sense? And so, just like barley, wheat, most of them are stripped, harvested in warmer temperatures, lower humidities. Kangaroo grass is not dissimilar.
The amount of learning and development that you as and DJAARA as the organisation would have to have gone through, right? You're talking about learning processes. You're pioneering things that don't have existing processes,
ancient things.
Right? How crazy is that to be, and how hard is that to be learning and butting up against barriers and challenges that you didn't foresee? How has that process gone for the people that are doing this, and what challenges has that thrown up as a commercial organisation? Yeah,
it's hard, probably more so in though we want to lead this. So you stumble and you trip over your feet a little bit around process and learning to do stuff. But we also want to lead this in, Caleb. We no longer want others to take from us. And I'll describe it this way internationally. We've seen, if we just think about native foods and they relate to different areas of country, Australia has had a number of food as plant species go offshore, and they're actually grown more overseas than here.
Really?
This is what happens when things get into the dynamics of being easily grown and sensibly grown and useful food. So, macadamia nuts are a really good example, whereas, there's greater amounts grown overseas. The finger lime, which has become, an interesting sort of thing that we use culinary here in Australia, there's more of that grown overseas now than there is here.
Wow.
So for the DJAARA Wurrung, it was a bit of like, we think it's sort of theft, stealing in a sense. There's laws around this. That could inadvertently happen here in our own country. So we wanted to be the best kangaroo grass farmers. And by nature of being the best is you can create some sort of control or a commanding position. You don't get lost in the busyness, the noise now of an industry being created. A lot of people come to us and they say, can we get kangaroo seed off you because we want to go kangaroo grass? And, we want to support that.
Yeah.
But, what are you actually going to do with it? We're going to grow it and we're going to harvest it too. I say, okay, well, we wish you all the best in doing that, but don't forget, where this sort of started and where it sort of came from for us.
Yeah, well, it's much different than just developing a product that you don't have much connection to. That it's just any other product. This is more than that for you, right?
Yeah,
it's a part of your culture.
Yeah,
and so understandably there is an existing sense of ownership and responsibility that you hold to that product, and it's probably pretty rare in that many organizations probably don't come up against this challenge where they have a product that they want to sell and they want to commercialize, but it holds such a close holds such a close value to the culture of your people itself, right?
Yeah. And kangaroo grass, there's so many stories that we could sort of unpack and tell around it. It has a root structure that's longer, deeper than any of the other tussock type grasses that we have in Australia. And you think of its companionship probably in a more natural setting with other types of species around it. So now it's only drinking from a soil moisture profile that its other family as plants and whatever around them aren't. And so you think of this plant community now that has different root lengths in these soil profiles, all being really careful about the moisture that they take at different depths within the soil and what they're doing. And I think for us as people to better understand the nature of plants and how they can be gifting us their seeds when we look after their homes, their habitats and that sort of stuff. This is getting into sort of philosophy stuff, Caleb, and really important to us culturally, and we want others now as community to start to understand this. Some people can say, it's a bit wacky, it's spiritual. There's an element that it perhaps is spiritual, but I think it's more mindful. It's more open in your thinking that it doesn't have to be purely analytical. You can actually bring a degree of emotion. That's something that sets us apart from all other plants and animals in the world as humans. That we have this emotion, and so what we would suggest and think is culturally useful as community, allow that emotion to immerse into country, and what that means for plants and animals, and what does it mean, for so many things, Caleb.
That's quite a fascinating analogy that you can draw on there. I like how you describe it. It's quite philosophical in that the kangaroo grass, it's a couple of meters, I think, right, is the depth of the root system, that it's not taking from the plants that it coexists with, the water source. And that as an analogy for how we coexist as unique individuals and unique cultures is quite powerful, right? Because we get to be right next to each other, but drawing from different levels and different sources so that we can coexist without trying to take from one another. That we know our place is unique and it's just as valuable as, you know, the one next to us, but it's different, and that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. To see, I think some people are challenged to understand. We get told that cultural diversity is really important, and I think some people probably in the norm and really narrow thinking don't understand what that means. Yeah. Like you've just observed, to use the analogy around plants, what a plant community as a family could be doing, that is diversity. And so if you apply it in a cultural context to people, well, that immediately suggests that we're actually better because of us and our diversity, our individuality. And that's what gives us great strength. Can also give us some of the greatest challenges. Yeah. Because it now means we need to be more intimate and in tune with our strengths and weaknesses and who and what we are as a people. But I always say that is one of the greatest gifts that we can give each other, is our diversity, individuality, and rise to the challenge of trying to participate in that and be part of it.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. You touched on challenges there. I want to start rounding this episode off with what are some of the unique challenges that you've faced as an organization or as a leader of a growing organization across the last decade that have been key challenges? We know that challenges are really important. They're really to overcome something makes you stronger, et cetera, et cetera. I'm interested to hear from your journey. You will have a unique set of challenges that you've encountered in growing this organization. Do any of them jump out to you as helpful teachers, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so just what we just touched on then about diversity, people, connectivity, that's been one of the greatest challenges. What inadvertently happens, more people working together as more teams, interconnected teams, there's a complexity, there's dynamics that goes on. So this whole idea around people management has been really challenging for us as an organisation. I think more so challenging that you have DJAARA and non-DJAARA, and DJAARA in a sense, not immediately suspicious, but a bit about I want to be really good and heal myself and just do this myself, whereas you can't do stuff by yourself. So you need more of your own mob in a sense around you, but you need more of others, because this is the whole point of diversity, you'll be better. And then there's others realising the vision that we touched on earlier and why are these people working with it, because they believe in it. Now they see greater value in themselves, creating to greater outcomes, and then wanting to understand DJAARA. And I say to people, it's really good, be a bit like us. You know, you don't have to become us, and maybe that's not necessarily achievable, Caleb, but you know, you immerse in you know, this collective way of doing stuff. So this whole personnel management has been a really significant, challenging things. As you know, we're not faultless as people, any of us, DJAARA, non-DJAARA. And with some of our flaws come challenges. And so, you know, we're usefully and purposefully and in a good way trying to deal with that dynamic for the workforce, for DJAARA Wurrung as a family and the members, and then maybe how some of the wider community views and even treats us, which is largely positive, and then sometimes it's not, and then you've got to deal with that. So leading on me to talking about that idea of then the wider community, us and others in a sense, the need for communication that I say is repetitive. Repetitive communication's all right, because I say to people, one book, 100 people read it, there'll be a different way that 100 people might actually see and absorb that written word. And then now you put that 100 people together book club to talk about the book, you'll start to create an alignment of the consistent nature of what the author was trying to communicate within the book. And then you ask those readers of the book to go out and to talk to others that haven't read the book. That will trigger and jar their thinking around the messages and the way they interpreted the book. So they're technique types of things. But the point of mentioning that, I think repurposing, repackaging, repetitive communication of our messages, our strategies now is really important, Caleb. And I think that's been one of the greatest challenges for us, is to improve people's understanding of what we say and what we do, the presence, and their comprehension. And what happens, I say they're light bulb moments for all of us. I still have many myself where I've read stuff and I didn't realise there was something embedded in the text, and I'm a bit of a nerd, and so that just tells me this is what we need to keep talking about amongst ourselves in the world, and to the point of why we put so much effort into comms relationship, comms media, and repackaging messages and repeating ourselves, because I think you get heard, maybe you don't get completely understood. You're understood in a certain way.
I can see that happening in many different areas. I'm pretty involved in church, and that's full of people and communication challenges sometimes, right? You undoubtedly, when you get more people together of different backgrounds and thought processes and beliefs, you have you run into this thing of like the fear of the unknown. And that's what I hear you talking about, Rodney, is aligning and connecting people and building understanding between people so that you break down that barrier of the fear of what they don't know about the other person, the fear of what they don't know about what the other person thinks or how they operate. People are likely to often get threatened by something they don't understand, right? And that's a fear response. But what I hear you saying is that you've brought been really intentional about spreading messages and communication and repeating and talking amongst your community and staff about what it means, so that fear barrier is lowered, so that there can be connection. Is that right?
Yeah. And look, it's instinctive, it's natural.
Yeah.
Okay, in forms of our leadership and our standing and what we want to contribute to, if we have a little bit of an appreciation where somebody else may be coming from. I think in the extreme, Caleb, we also can only tolerate so much from people. But I sort of think also it's incumbent on me in leadership and what we do to be understanding of their difference and misunderstanding perhaps, and try and repackage what, this is what I'm actually saying and that stuff. And sometimes I think those walls break down. They crumble. But it is just natural for us. Suspicion can be a real root, and it can stop you being a better person, I think.
Let's talk practically about this for a moment. Maybe someone's listening to this, a manager or another CEO who is recognizing cultural challenges within their organization. How have you gone about practically facilitating these kind of conversations within teams? Because that's not their job role, is to connect with each other. They've got their own tasks to do and their own KPIs and outcomes to achieve. How do you practically get an organization talking and addressing cultural challenges?
Yeah, so I think frequent engagement opportunities. So there's the project team environment, there's the collaborative teams environment, there's the promotion of others' forms of achievement. So I'm really grateful, Caleb, now the size and the structure that we've got, we're using different means, so the electronic, the audio visual, the experiential, the immersive, going out onto our country. So we have quarterly on-country experiences for all of the staff.
Cool.
Run them over a couple of days, understanding some people can't get that day. So you try and cater for people on another day. So it's just ongoing revolving door around communication. For me, in my leadership, and people are so respectful of me that they don't push my door open that's left ajar, but I have that open door sort of policy.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm looking around, where are people, because, you know, they respect Rodney, the CEO, and what I'm sort of doing. But, you know, through my executive team, my chain of command and line reporting, you know, you set best example, monitor and sort of oversee what's going on. But, yeah, to the point of us talking about communication, use as many tools and means at your disposal to talk to people.
Yeah, that's great advice. Speaking of advice, let's round this episode off with some key takeaways. Rodney, over your journey, your growth journey as a leader and growing and building this organization, what are some of the key things that you've learned that you could share that have been real integral to the growth of the organization?
Yeah, probably nothing overly unique, Caleb, in that I've got a project management background, construction background, very process driven. So I say to people, go to learn about what the steps are in Project Management 101 and apply that to all things that you might do. But if it is the CEO or the senior manager or significant leader in a group, you have to take, I think, probably a bird's eye view, a continuum view of where this idea, this vision will be, and is it practically achievable in what not you can do in your own skills, but your influence. You have to be able to positively influence others, and they need to share that vision. So maybe that's a technical, tactical way to approach to get outcomes, the best outcomes of people. But I generally think Project Management 101, you know, it's not broken. It's worked. It's worked for hundreds of years, thousands of years probably. It's probably part of human evolution or our existence. Apply it.
Yeah, that's good. And as we finish, I couldn't have you host you on this podcast without asking, how can the wider community engage and interact with DJAARA? What would you say to the wider community in an encouragement of the heart behind DJAARA for the wider community?
Yeah, so we've got all of the platform online stuff. So, you know, have a look at that webpage. A lot of effort's gone into designing that web page, and I always say to people, because I'm a bit of a nerd and I love books, it should be a bit like a book. You know, what does the cover of the book look like? I'm interested, I'll open it and start flicking through the pages. So, you know, we've got the web page. You can receive our newsletters, so people can sign up for that. So you don't get bombarded, but, you know, every fortnight there's an email that goes out and updates you to what our activities are. And in part of betting our culture through language and a symbolism, we've also got a colour palette.
Cool.
So whenever you see signs that talk about DJAARA Wurrung, immerse yourself visually in that colour palette, because what you'll increasingly see, if you go somewhere else at country, you'll see those colours. And those colours will attract you because that's had an imprint of us in a modern context. When you see a DJAARA Wurrung shelter, it'll be replicated at other places at country. It might be slightly different material, timber, different types of stone, but largely it will still be that mayam, that shelter. So I'd say to people, grab the stuff that's probably a little bit easier to get a hold of, that's in the public domain, but get out to country and start immersing yourselves in these imprints now that we've created, because there'll be many more in the making to come.
Yeah, love it. Thank you, Rodney. Thanks again. It's been an honour. I can't wait to see what DJAARA does next.
Thank you very much, Caleb.
Well, that's it for this episode. If you really enjoyed listening, why don't you drop a comment in the comments below? Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you get updates on when all of the next ones come out. That really helps grow this little community of people that are diving into regional business and celebrating and learning more from it. So really appreciate your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.